Hello, hello, hello. It looks like we are live, everyone. So before I introduce the guest that doesn't really need any introduction, please let me know how is the connection. I hope it's well. How is the sound? And I have here my moderator, Deborah. Thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us. So let's start. Today, I am absolutely honored to have back with me Andrei Martyanov, the one and only. I have to say Andrei before I will say who you are again. I had some Polish viewers emailing me and thanking me for having conversations with you, and they are actually reading your books in Poland. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have to thank Mike Krupa, my friend, who translated the last book, which have been published in Poland, in Polish, actually. You know, it's Factory Publishing House. So I was really honored that Mike did this, and yeah, evidently people reading there, which is good.
Thank you. Thank you. So Andrei is, of course, an expert on Russian military and naval issues. He has written many books. I came across 3 titles. You will see all the links already placed underneath the live stream, so you can click on it and follow Andrei on YouTube as well as on his blog. You also can order his books. There are the links down below. And as far as my story, please join me on Locals and follow me on Instagram and join my mailing list and check out my books, etc., etc. So we're done with the administrational parts. Andrei, so many things I want to talk to you about, but the first topic I want to start is something that I have mentioned in my video yesterday, and I actually have sent you the recording, that video. I will give a little bit description to the audience, to those of you who haven't seen my video yesterday. Polish Institute in Kiev, in Ukraine, has produced a video, actually that was, as I believe, sponsored by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland, and that video was placed on official website of Polish Institute. In that video, you can see one of the Ukrainian battalions. In a way, it's like a promotional video. War is sexy, war is great. It's great to be in the uniform, and we are fighting, you know, for a good cause. But what really was the most disturbing to me were 2 moments. The first moment is when I saw there are 2 soldiers, and one is placing a sleeve patch on the shoulder of another uniform. On the top of it was Ukrainian flag, and then in a little slow motion down below was, right next to it, was Polish flag. And then the video has ended with, for freedom of ours and yours, in language of Ukrainian, and right below in Polish. And that to me is right in the face of people. If they don't see what's happening, then I really don't know. What are your thoughts about this video? How do you see how do you see it right now after that video?
Well, I watched it. Obviously, it's a classic promotional thing. It also what I call the war porn videos, you know. So it's promoting war is fantastic, as remembering the hot shots too, you know. So, but of course, it's just propaganda, sheer propaganda, which fits well with the political aims of the current Polish elites. And this is, of course, it is sort of reminiscent in some bizarre way of 1940 when France was collapsing under the Wehrmacht's assault. You probably remember that Churchill, in the moment of emotion and pathos, so to speak, he stated that we just accepted the French and Great Britain as the single country. We're unified now. Obviously, it had no bearing whatsoever on the ultimate outcome, with the France collapsing and surrendering to Germans. In some sort of bizarre way, this is what is happening right now between Poland and Ukraine, because obviously Ukraine wants to involve as many participants as possible. And if it's going to be trading its territory, and we are talking about Vostochny Kresy, of course, we're talking about what historically was Polish territory. And of course, there are many people in Warsaw who think that, hey, it's our historical chance to get those lands back, and if possible, even more. And, they don't care about what they are getting themselves into. But of course, they are playing this game, trying to position themselves as the saviors of Ukraine in some sense. And of course, Verkhovna Rada, the so-called parliament, there is a reason I call them so-called, which essentially are giving up Ukraine's sovereignty piece by piece to Poland. For example, Polish citizens now allowed to own property, to be part of the administrative organs of Ukraine. So that's what is this all about. But militarily, I doubt it is possible. And as I already stated, I remain unmoved on my position, which have been for a year now, more than for a year. I say, if Poland would have behaved itself more amicably towards Russia, I'm pretty sure that Russians would be, in the behind the scene, would say, yeah, just take the Lvov, Lemberg, and that's yours. But because obviously in diplomacy, forms, decorum is so important, and Poland was obviously hyper aggressive towards Russia. So Russia said, well, hell with it. No, you're not getting anything until we say so, officially, and if we say so. And that's what we are observing right now.
So here are a few things I want to say. Probably you know this, but I have been reporting on this for several months now. We actually will have in Poland, starting from April 17th, and this will be ongoing until July 21st, we will have those military calls, which means people will be called to be checked, how is their health condition, to get their informations, and check. This will be over 200,000 people, they estimate. 200,000, 10, 30, around this number. So this is one aspect. Now, very recently, Polish Fire Station Department in Poland, they just started with the application, with the app, which people can download. And that app is, where is your shelter? Okay, in case of peace, do you have applications like this? You really don't, right? I know they are trying to create this agenda, this narrative about escalation that is really not existing, but they are still trying to this narration to go on. And I just would like to ask you in this context, Andrei, what in your opinion was really the main reason why Zelensky came to Poland?
They are trying desperately, both Warsaw and Kiev, to find an arrangement where Poland can take their, as I already stated, Western territories, which are historically Polish, and of course probably takes something more than that. And they have to do it in such a way that Poland will not destroy NATO. But whatever Poland does, there is no way of basically getting anybody from the old Europe, so to speak, and old NATO getting involved with that. And so they are kind of trying to find a way to do it in such a way that indeed Russian reserves which are out there will not get introduced, because you probably already figured out that those massive number of troops which Russia still did not introduce in Ukraine are not there to take Ukraine. Russia is not into gaining territories per se in Ukraine anymore. It is about physical annihilation of the mobilizational potential of first Ukraine as the representative of NATO, avatar of NATO, and then of the NATO itself. So in this particular case, the reserves and the deployment in Belarus are also kind of the what you would call the deterrent factor for Poland not to do stupid things, And but yeah, they will be trying to create the appropriate mood, so to speak, and emotional background in Poland to show those aggressive Ruskies, which, and again, like in that the video you sent me, it's about freedom and all the BS basically, So, but yes, Russians do not want to do anything bad to Poland. And in general, Russians have a decent relations and attitude towards Polish people in general, not towards obviously political top of Poland. So I mean, nobody wants to do anything stupid, but Russians have those tools there to, if Warsaw decides to commit suicide.
Right, but now we have our Prime Minister Morawiecki in United States talking about another deal with buying, the tanks from US, etc. So there is still this continuum of this narrative, in my opinion, right? It's still like he's going there, they're buying those tanks, the tanks are coming. So is this just simply, and we talked about this before, actually. We talked when I was in Moscow. I remember I told you this and you agree, because this is the power game and the money game here. But do you think that there is still something more to it besides the aspect that they are just doing a great business?
Oh no, we cannot discount, absolutely we cannot discount the ideological and historical trauma and pains, so you cannot remove it from the equation. Obviously there is a lot of to be gained by some sides, many sides actually, both in the United States and in Poland, in terms of basically getting the American hardware, which will be represented as a huge success, while in reality Poland is getting the technology which is obsolete already, be them Abrams tanks or F-22s. And so, yeah, it's basically United States unloading the equipment, which is really not designed for real, serious European theater combined arms operation. But, and again, there is a lot of money and, paybacks are there. There are political and business careers involved in there. So it's a serious business, so to speak. And of course, as always, serious business comes with ideology attached. So, and, can you imagine basically the government of Poland, its initial thrust, so to speak, the vector of the events, if they return the Lemberg and Western Ukraine, what is called, Восточные Kresy, to Poland. There will be obviously absolutely natural outpour of the patriotism, nationalism, and chauvinism. And it's only natural. That's how it goes. So it's a huge political prize here also for Polish elites, for their future, who will have this on the record, who will say, hey, historically, you see, we are the people who returned those, Восточные Kresy to Poland, and look at us. And people will buy it. It's all only natural, So there are huge stakes here.
We have this saying in Polish, actually. This is from a historical book. It says, po nas choćby potop, which means after us, even the flood. Even the flood.
Russians have the same, exactly. It sounds после нас хоть потоп. It's pretty much.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's it is. And again, we are looking at what many people want to call liberal democracy. Well, in reality, it's all about election cycle and who gets the better patch, so to speak, or better pin on their, or credit history. And it's pretty much self-evident. But what Russia is trying to do, and obviously the message is clear, that don't do stupid things. Because in the case of you do stupid things, and again, the fact that they're going to be checking 210,000 people, doesn't mean that they will be able, they will not be able to collect appropriate armed force. You need to develop combat cohesion. You need to develop so many things, and it's extremely expensive. And out of those 210,000, if Poland will be able to put together something like the 30, 40,000 of people who actually are capable of doing anything there, it's going to be a surprise for me. And that's the whole thing. People don't know military affairs that well. And you have to explain to them that no, militarily, it means absolutely nothing for Russians. I mean, and but obviously Russians do not want to bomb anything, or attack anything. But if at this stage, Poland decides to interfere militarily, there will be consequences, obviously. But other than that, truth is, let me put it this way. I think, in some bizarre sense, the way if Poland decides to interfere, it blows NATO structure out of the water. No matter how you play it, because NATO will have to say immediately, and they will, we wash our hands, it's up to you now, just go it alone. And that blows NATO to smithereens, because it's already basically the dead man walking, because there are so many contradictions. And for now, it's only United States which keeps this shipple, in the appropriate order, and make them toe the line. But reality is NATO as military force, as my friend, the colonel of the Central Apparatus of Ministry of Defense of Russia says, we don't even sweat about European NATO, So, and that is a completely new dynamics, which we have to keep in mind. And there you go. So there's so many factors, so many, things we have to consider.
So here, Andrei, two things. When you were talking about the number of people they're gonna call for those checks, right?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely what you said. I agree with this 100%. But then let's keep in mind, they call people, they pull them out of their regular lives when they have actually jobs to pay the bills, with all of this inflation and all this what's going on. And this is like their loss. So for those days, they are actually not being really paid, which creates another problem for the family. Sometimes 1 or 2 days without an income, if everything is like, everything is counted, it will be an issue. Now, talking about those tanks, you said they are obsolete. It's like old equipment. So I just calculated this today because I did another video and I was like, okay, so how much is one Abrams tank, like the new one, okay? I'm not even talking those used one they're gonna send. So it's around $10 million. So if they are ordering the number they order, it came to $2.5 billion. So this is like stuff that is obsolete, but this $2.5 billion, it's another credit that the government's gonna take, and who will pay for it is not just this generation of Polish citizens.
Yeah.
It's other generations that will follow.
Yeah. As Russians have a joke about Abrams tanks, it's a much inferior copy of the Leopard tanks. And Leopard tanks are also not that impressive in many respects for Russians, especially considering Russian anti-tank weapons and aviation, and So it's all about somebody making a lot of dough doing this. Absolutely. They're also getting a lot of political favors. And for American military-industrial complex, hey, look at this. It's a good deal. Let's unload those Abrams tanks with, so to speak, free the billet. Now Poland will pay us money. Obviously, the United States may issue some kind of loan, and let them kind of deal with this. Who cares? Nobody cares about polls in Washington, D.C., really. They care about their bottom line and how much money they make. And again, I want to repeat a thing which I do not want to sound too arrogant or not humble, but I believe I was the one who actually introduced this. And I know in my first book it's there, and I will quote again. Russians make weapons to kill. Okay, America makes weapons to sell, and that's the fundamental difference. And
this is horrible.
Yeah, and it's and Poland will be getting the load of this. It's So,
This
and
is
then
horrible.
Poland will pay for it, obviously.
Andrei, now let's talk about something that you are absolutely supreme expert here. I want to talk about the naval strength of United States and about the submarines. And I want to read this, and I would like to ask you if this is still correct. So apparently today's submarine force is the most capable force in the world, United States, I'm talking, in the history of US as well. Navy comprising 53 fast attack submarines, 14 ballistic missile submarines, and 4 guided missile submarines. Excuse my language if I made mistake.
No,
Is
no,
this true? Is this still accurate? And is US submarine force #1 in the world still?
certainly now first two, and it's outstanding force, extremely well trained, with their very good platforms. Virginia class submarines are excellent subs, despite the number of the issues which have been especially disclosed after this scandal with the testing of its steel. But other than that, excellent submarines, excellent signal processing, excellent sonar. The weapons, however, are a little bit outdated because they carry the same, for example, like those 4 guided missile submarines. Those are former higher class ballistic missile submarines, which have been turned into the submarines which carry 156 cruise missiles. It's primarily Tomahawk land attack missiles. It's still very dangerous, make no mistake, but it's a very formidable force. And yeah, it's probably #1 in the world still. So, and when you look at this, yeah, Russians will catch up in terms of the quality. Russians already caught up and in some senses surpassed it, but probably will catch up and be on equal in terms of sheer numbers of the nuclear powered submarines at some point by 2030. But in terms of number of submarines, Russia actually has more. And don't forget, Russia, unlike the United States, has the excellent diesel electric submarines, more than 30 of them. So, but the difference here is that the United States has only 2 fleets, 2 theaters, which is of course what? Pacific and Atlantic. Russians have to deal with the 4, which is Arctic, Pacific Fleet, which is of course Black Sea, and of course Baltic. And that's the difference. But no, American submarine force is excellent. For all its troubles, there are issues there, definitely, but it's an excellent force.
Okay, and you know why I've asked you this, Andrei, besides that you know like really the most about it? Because I want to learn and understand, and I want to ask you about the Taiwan and China, and I think this is what's going to be used, right, in this conflict with China first.
Yeah,
that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, God
I mean,
forbid.
well, of course, right, but that's what they're going to focus on the naval strength and the submarines, right?
Yes, because United States naval force, United States Navy still remains, and there are huge problems in that Navy, make no mistake, especially on the surface fleet, there are huge issues, but it still remains the premier force. Plus, United States obviously has a very substantial and glorious, I would say, naval history. So in this particular case, what do you leverage against land power like China? You leverage, obviously, the Navy. And in terms of, just to give you an example, and this is well-known fact, in terms of the submarines, and especially nuclear submarines, China is not in the same league as Russia or United States. And of course, United States will definitely leverage whatever it has. And whatever it has is the decisive advantage in terms of its nuclear submarine component. United States doesn't have diesel electric submarines. And even considering the outdated weapons, and Virginias, they carry primarily either Tomahawk land attack missiles, and anti-shipping missiles are good, old, and pretty nearing obsolescence harpoons. But still, even with that weaponry, it could be a very, very formidable force.
So let me ask you this. The role that Philippines is playing in this, because I've seen some protest lately from Filipinos about Americans coming. I don't know really exactly what it was. Was it a new base they are trying to create, or I don't really know, but they want them to be out of Philippines.
Yeah,
So they were protesting because Philippines, as you look at the map, right, strategically, it's a very good country to position yourself if you want to do anything with Taiwan.
Absolutely. We're talking about the Subic Bay, which was one of the largest naval bases at some point of time of the U.S. Navy outside the United States. And they want it back, essentially. And yes, understandably, they want it reactivated or have some kind of access to it. And it was, and the idea, the strategy here is pretty self-evident. It really is. There's nothing really super pooper intellectual there when you explain it on the map. It's the first island chain, and the United States Navy wants to lock China basically within the first island chain, and of course cut shipping lanes of communications, which goes. That's why AUKUS has been created. It's not about Australia having nuclear powered submarine. It's about United States having the Perth naval base for its fast attack submarines, which when they go out of Perth, you immediately get into the basically into Indian Ocean and operational wide space, and you cut the shipping lanes of communications between suppliers of the energy like Iran, Iraq, and Middle East to China. And that's the whole idea. And in this particular case, it's if to not be cynical, or rather be cynical, if we're gonna be cynical, that's a totally sensible idea on the part of the Americans, because that's what you would do if you want to basically squeeze or strangle China economically. I'm not saying it's correct in sense of the moral and any other terms, but this militarily, that's the only way to do it. And that is why China is now, you look at the increase in the Russian-Chinese trade for the last 2 years. It's stunning. Just recent numbers, it grew in the first quarter of this year by 38%. And Putin said, oh, we need to reach 200 billion, like this year. Comrade Z comes out, no, we have to reach $250 billion. So, okay, they will reach 250, and you understand, once the Russian pipelines are completely like Power of Siberia 2, and there is a huge oil pipe there, turned towards China. China will eventually move all of its main energy supplying lanes inside their continent, where they will be safe, especially because it will be Russia. And of course, there is another issue of the Arctic, basically Northern Sea route. And there you have a mighty Russian northern fleet, with its powers and and means and forces. So, and that's pretty safe route too. So, and China understands that, and we're now in this race. And United States obviously miscalculated, I mean, in the most colossal, historic scale way, when they thought that Ukraine can defeat Russia, which tells you that how many incompetent and downright stupid people are actually running the United States, when they were, expecting Russians to do what they expected them to do, instead of Russians doing what they're doing now.
But don't you think it just came to me, and like I'm really learning all of this, as I go along. Don't you think what they are trying to do is to attack Russia from both sides? So they are trying to continue with Ukraine to the point of falling already, right? But then they're going to drag, maybe, please no God, but I'm just saying that this is the plan, maybe, Poland into it. So like, let's continue at least for some time. Let's continue.
Yes.
So we have this. It's like it's just a little bit slower paced, but still go on. But then meanwhile, they are doing this with China from the other side, because I wanted to ask you, what, in your opinion, will be Russia's response if any attack on China will happen? What Russia will do?
First, I spoke about it in one of my videos. If you remember when Comrade Z and his huge delegation came to Moscow in March, which was basically, 2.5 weeks ago, and there was hysteria in the Western media. You have to remember what was their program after 4.5 hours speaking to Mr. Putin behind the closed doors, which in itself, like, wow. And then the next day they meet another closed door session with, of course, Mr. Putin, Mr. Xi, and then Chinese delegation. And if you look at the complement of Russian side at that on the 21st, when they met again for several hours, it was primarily represented by people from military industrial complex of Russia. And guess what? I think there was a serious, let me put it this way. I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm pretty sure that I have all necessary facts to be confident in what I'm saying. And I already spoke about it. This is not the first time I state this, and I think so. I have all reasons for that. Chinese wanted Russian hypersonic weapons. And primarily they wanted Kinzhal, and to arrange it because it will play a crucial role in basically containing United States and its aircraft carrier component well beyond the first island chain. And after that, China has a chance. And so it's not only that. And in case, God forbid, war, Russia probably will transfer some type, most likely Kinzhal carrying systems, which are MiG-31K. And obviously, Russia will provide necessary targeting and intelligence, and including the combat control, which will be run not only through Chinese, but also through Russian combat C4 ISR complex in Moscow, from the National Center of the Command of Russian Defense. And when you look at this, even the Vostok 2018, the maneuvers, and since then, you constantly see that Russian strain on the tactical level, not only like joined with Chinese, they actually trained with the mixed units. Literally, for example, you have the squadron of some force, and you have, like, say, half of it Russians, half of them Chinese, and they are operating as the same unit. Of course, it's in Russian and Russian language. And in this particular case, you might see the repetition
Andrei, is this since 2018, you're saying?
Oh, actually earlier than that. But on Vostok 2018, this is when it was officially confirmed by Moscow and mass media in Russia that, oh, no, it's not just Chinese joining in. It's the fact that we now operate as the unified mixed units.
So that means if anything happens...
Korea, 1950, 1953, all those, Korean combat fighters, they were Korean, quote unquote, while in reality they were Russian. So things of this nature, possible. But definitely Russia will provide all necessary command control and communications and ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance aid to China. And again, we can only speculate what kind of weapon systems will be transferred. No doubt China wants more S-400s, it wants more books, M3s, but again, the pivot of this is the transfer of some of the hypersonic technologies, because that will change the game dramatically. And
So
I'm
can I
talking
ask
about
you?
not
Mhm.
China has its own hypersonic things like DF-21 and DF-26, I believe, which are intermediate ballistic missiles, which allegedly have the anti-shipping capability. We never saw them perform anywhere. Look at Kinjal. It sees their combat use to a devastating effect non-stop in Ukraine. And this is real hypersonic weaponry.
So let me ask you here, Andrei. Now, if this happens, and this is just really, and I hope only hypothetically, it would start from the seaside, and then, well, US probably would like to mainly do it from the water side.
Yeah.
But then how this direct? Right, that's what I'm saying. Right, and then how they direct it, how they change it into the land or air.
Oh, they're not going to change it to the land. United States is not really continental military power. It has it has army, but it cannot fight peer, especially the peer, which is China, which has virtually unlimited mobilizational resource in people. China can mobilize upfront 20 million soldiers. Good luck fighting that, even if you have, as special military operation in Ukraine showed, American weapon systems have been grossly overrated to start with. It was, again, for sales primarily. So if they want to fight that, no, even some strategic documents, US strategic documents, and some strategists wrote that we don't want to fight a land war with China. Of course, who would like to do that? I mean, it's a suicide. But of course, how can you humiliate and how can you make China, using Clausewitz, compelled to do American will, if to rephrase Clausewitz? Very simple. You sink its surface fleet. And once you sunk its surface fleet, you can pull your, theoretically, aircraft carriers closer to Taiwan, and you can start fighting the Chinese Air Force, and then that's how it ends up with China being politically and militarily humiliated, and Taiwan becomes sort of independent, That's the whole idea. That's the whole strategy. And the first strike, especially with and I spoke about the fact that United States developed and trying to procure in large numbers the latest version of JASSM. It's JASSM X, I believe. Its range is 1,900 kilometers. And when you add this range to the range of the F-18s, which will be flying from the decks of the American carriers, you suddenly can attack Chinese fleet and coastal installations being outside the range of Chinese allegedly accurate ballistic anti-shipping missiles. And that's the whole idea. And that's why China needs Kinjal, because Kinjal still outranges anything the United States has.
This is true war of art, Andrei. This is like war of art, modern war of art.
It's art of war, yeah. That's why
yeah.
Russians have this basically the term, which is, and it exists obviously in English language, art of war.
I said the other way, yeah.
Yeah, well, in Russian it's war art. So военное искусство. Yeah, so it's that's what it is. And this is just how to say it, we just scratched the surface. Reality is, of course, extremely complex, and you have all those brainiacs, who operate with all those computers, mathematics, and how it is done. And as I already stated, what many people do not understand, China depends on Russia dramatically in terms of security, be that energy supply, which Russia is providing, obviously, or be it in getting hands on the really advanced technologies which can change the outcomes. But United States still remains a very formidable force against China, not against Russia, but against China. And do not forget, the United States has this other Trump, so to speak, card. While China has its obviously own nuclear deterrent, United States nuclear weapons are much larger quantitatively, than those Chinese weapons. So, and it may play the role in terms of the escalation towards the nuclear threshold. It doesn't mean that they all have to cross this threshold, but they can say, okay, you're going to blow up, New York, Chicago, whatever. We're going to blow up all your cities on the coast, So, and that plays the role too.
I have two questions, great questions from the viewers, but I will ask you later on. I want to really know your thoughts, Andrei. What do you think about how the clown Macron is flip-flopping right now?
Oh, God. It's...
After that visit,
takes,
right?
Yeah, nobody takes him seriously, really. Nobody. Chinese also. Chinese are not stupid, believe me. They've been around for a while. It doesn't mean that they always have been successful. But yeah, they still have this kind of perverted sense of admiration to French culture, which is not there anymore, by the way. So it's gone, those wonderful, chansonniers and
Sadly.
Yeah, sadly, agree totally. I grew up with the French cinematography and Andrei Martyanov and Jacques
Yeah.
and it's not there anymore. It's gone. But yeah, they kind of still think about this. But Macron is a clown, and he is absolutely, as pretty much any European political top, is not in control of his own country, because they don't understand and don't know how to run things. They just don't. They are financial people. The only thing they know in their life is how to move money from one account to another and how to speculate. Period. I mean, when you look at their basically government and everything, these are insane people. I wouldn't allow those people to mow the lawn at the back of my house, No, really, I mean, they are that incompetent. They don't understand anything. Last thing they understand, they have no clue how the military balance and power balance is formed globally. They just don't have toolkit to understand it. These are people of this, what is called Davos culture, World Economic Forum, people who are completely detached from the realities of the world out there. And plus France, it's a pipsqueak economically compared to China. Oh, come on. China dwarfs France. I mean, it's not even funny, So there you go.
But now this whole situation with him taking slightly a different approach, do you think it's another game? Or
it's game. He can do nothing.
It's another game.
Nobody,
it's another whatever.
Yeah, he's nobody. He's less than zero. And so is France. France militarily is a pipsqueak. They might have probably still some kind of the nuclear deterrent. They do. They have 5 nuclear strategic missile submarines. They have 1 aircraft carrier, and they think that they're so great. They are not. Militarily, they are not even second. They're third rate. They're still better than British, though. So at least they have their own nuclear deterrent. And we're not talking about Germany, which is it's a circus. I mean, it's so when you look about it economically, Russia dwarfs France economically. This is another thing which they're learning now the hard way, And when you look at this, just if not for Airbus, what is there? What's left there? Not much,
So before I ask you those 2 questions from the viewers, what do you think? How this will end? So let's say we have. Do you think this conflict with Ukraine will come to the point when it falls and there is some form of agreement, the borders are changed?
The borders are already changed. The borders are already changed.
Okay, but do you think that where this continuum now is, because there has to be some, it's horrible, like even saying this, there has to be some war going on always.
Yeah.
So what they gonna do? What they gonna do? Like how this will shift or?
Look attentively at what the combined West is going through. It's going through, especially Western Europe, through economic destruction. It's not economic crisis. No, we are talking about economic destruction. Germany will be completely deindustrialized. So they had their some time under the sun, but it's over now, and most importantly, Russians don't trust them anymore at all. It's a goner. France will remain the second tier power at best. Russia, by the words and actions of Mr. Sergei Lavrov, in December 2021, presented the world with Russian ultimatum. And if you remember, what was the Russian ultimatum about the security configuration in Europe? NATO has to roll back to its borders to 1997. Now, United States is considering now the sanctioning of Hungary, a full-blown member of NATO and European Union. We are looking at the complete destructions of Western institutions. Look at the de-dollarization. It accelerates exponentially. Lula, president of Brazil, today, he stated, hey, we need to abandon it altogether. Why should we? India and Russia already trade in rupees and rubles. France buys energy from China for yuans, sells energy for yuan. It's like, that's it, guys. It's over. The game is over. We just kind of see how the chips will fall, and they will take it from there. And Russia wouldn't complain if NATO is completely destroyed, which will happen eventually because it's the dead man walking. And then we'll see what Poland will do. But obviously, actually, the United States now is not very interested in Poland getting involved there because it might accelerate, escalate to some kind of the conflict with Russia. United States and whole NATO cannot fight Russia conventionally in the Eastern Europe. They will have the same fate as the armed forces of Ukraine. We're talking the KIAs alone. KIAs, not just wounded, not overall, but KIAs alone in hundreds of thousands. United States never had any experience like that in history. They cannot fight like this. So there you go. As Chinese curse goes, let you live in the interesting times. There you go. Here we are.
And there was another saying from actually The Art of War, and I'm jinxing this now. When the enemy is in the process of destroying himself,
don't interfere.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah, don't.
Yes, yeah. Andrei, someone asked a brilliant question. Sorry, I don't see it. I'm not so brilliant with the live thing. I will get there eventually. What the West got wrong about Stalin?
About Stalin? Everything. Everything. Wow. It's and it's not only about Stalin. Again, there is no normal history of Russia of the 20th century written in the West, except for some brilliant, exceptions like Roger Thurston, who, by the way, writes about Gulag. Not that Stalin was a humanitarian; he was a hard man, but West doesn't know history of Russia. It's all basically fantasy and caricature. And what can I say? So there's nothing much to explain, So, and again, if people want to understand actually a little bit more, there is, of course, there are these two brilliant American U.S. Army officers, David Glantz and Jonathan House, who wrote this fantastic work. First edition is 95 or 96, I believe. It's called "When Titans Clashed: How the Red Army Defeated Hitler." So, but hey, I know what kind of history is taught in the United States. It's not a history; it's propaganda.
The same in Poland, right? We have the same history like in US.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is the question that was born actually from this. My question. What really took place in Yalta? during that meeting? Because they have those documents. I wish they will be revealed one day. What really took place? What kind of agreement was there?
You mean in 1945?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, there was basically the separation. Obviously, they discussed immediate matters of the finishing of the war and splitting Europe in the zones of responsibility, obviously. And it actually wasn't so much Stalin as Churchill who was constantly driving and shuffling, all those desires and percentages, like what percentage Russia will have, what Greece, how many percent Russia, Soviet Union will have influence here and there. But it was obvious that by the law of the war, the victor takes its spoils. Russia, Soviet Union ended up in Berlin, and basically everything west from east of Berlin inevitably became the Soviet possession, so to speak. And considering the catastrophic losses Soviet Union sustained, primarily civilians, and destruction, obviously Soviet Union viewed all those Western territories, which part of it was Poland, of course, Hungary, Romanian, as the cordon sanitaire against the, repetition of the West trying to attack Russia again. Do not forget, it never was viewed that just Germany. It was the unified West, and Russia, every century, unified West goes to Russia. Every century, and it ends up bad for West, but Russians also have to pay their price. Everybody forgets 1812, Napoleon
It's
invasion.
like never-ending. Yeah, it's like never-ending cycle, Andrei.
It's never-ending cycle. Russians genetically are basically conditioned now. There is a thing which indeed, it's Russian famous street jargon, наших бьют, ours are being beaten. And everybody, it's just like almost a reflex, It's reflex. You cannot do anything about it, except, of course, the so-called Russian liberals who are basically prostitutes anyway. But normal people just rise up, because it has been conditioned by the century upon century upon century of this non-stop warfare. And even Russian imperialism is different because Russians didn't go out and started. For example, Russia obviously partitioned Poland, and Poland was part of the Russian Empire. Nobody went out there and started blowing up and killing, Catholic priests, and so okay, Polish were Catholics. Let them stay Catholics. You go to the Middle Asia. They're Muslims. Okay, let them stay Muslims. There was never this how to say it, crusading spirit, so to speak. There was always geopolitical, purely geographical and cultural thing, But in the West part, it was all this. And now after Ukraine and for the last year, I never experienced in my 60 years the amount of contempt towards combined West on Russian's part. It's unbelievable. It's not just anti-Western. It's the fact that we do not want to deal with you at all. Just leave us alone. We hate your culture. We hate, well, of course, in Russia, it's a conservative society, and that's the other thing which Poland will have at some point of time make a choice. So, and
it's already been very affected by the woke culture, Poland.
Yeah, so it's I remember when this father, Russian father, and he married Swedish woman. They had a child, and the Swedish woman, how typical of Swedes, she wanted to turn his daughter, who was like 5 years old, into the boy, and he ran away with her. With his daughter first to Warsaw, because it was the only flight he could take from Stockholm, and he flew to Warsaw. And of course, the Interpol and Sweden asked to keep them there and return them eventually to Stockholm. But Warsaw judge said that father had all rights to save the child, from basically maiming it, and he still ordered their stay, and eventually they went to Russia. And Russians were like, yeah, you see, there are still normal people there, So there you go. But yes,
You know, the point is now this, Andrei. A lot of people that are watching, channels like mine or others, they have this perception and idea about Poland now, as the Polish-speaking government is acting. And you cannot think like this. You cannot think the entire society has the mindset like those schmucks.
Yeah,
Because
no,
we don't,
it's understandable.
right?
Yeah,
Right, but it's this, because this is like all across the world. Like people say this is US, this is France. No, these are just those puppets, but they don't represent the people. Some portion of the people, maybe.
In Western Europe, sadly, they do. In the end, don't forget, somebody also voted for Biden, even if we consider the fact that there were some irregularities, like fake elections and things of this nature, throwing in the ballots and everything. Even if you consider this, they voted for that. France, it's completely woke. It's complete. Germany, there's no German culture. It's a bunch of them, perverts, basically, It's, Poland, Hungary, they're still there, what's the name of it? Substantial conservative streak in Poland. It's due to Catholic faith, same goes for Hungary, and obviously there is nationalism and things of this nature. But when you look at the rest of the Europe, they are gone. They're done. There's no Europe anymore. That's what people don't understand. They voted. Macron, this dude, we don't even know who he is, he married his own mother, obviously, if we consider this, So Marine Le Pen, she was thrashed on the ballot. Macron won with the landslide. Those morons voted for him. So then
Andrei, but they use the same machines in most of those countries. It's the same system that is rigged. So
well, Hungary evidently is doing okay. So, no matter how they try, for some reason, those stubborn Hungarians, they vote Mr. Orban in, and they're doing okay, both economically and culturally wise. So somehow, evidently, it works for Hungary. You see, that's the point. That's the funny thing. No matter how you listen, if you're 90s in Russia, my God, it was a complete, Sodom and Gomorrah, essentially. But look at this. Russians voted. They learned their lesson from 1996 when this alcoholic and criminal have been re-elected. Yes, everybody knows there were obviously, the throw-ins of the ballots and things of this nature. And Zyuganov supposedly, won the elections. But the point is, look at Russia today. You learn, but if people don't learn, France is not a country which could be proud of anything for the last, they were electing those governments. Holland, the toy boy, the moron, and you look at this, Sarkozy, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. So if they don't understand that, if they continue to vote for that, it's their problem. Let's face it, no matter how much are they brainwashed, if they allow themselves to be brainwashed in the times of the internet and free exchange of the information, it's their problem. It's their... So, and there you go.
I agree with this. I always say we always have a choice. And people say no, but we always
people deserve the government they elect. Germans wanted, again, for example, the Greens, Green Party nation, which maintains the basically what amounts to the eco-terrorist party as part of their political life and influential political force for the last 40, 50 years, then they have to have their heads examined. Okay? It's not that KGB came in and made those Grünes, No, it's German choice. Those morons want that. There you go. Last 3 nuclear power stations will be closed this month. So Germany, go right ahead. This is Morgenthau plan of their own making. They will be reduced, and they are being reduced to the agricultural country. Their Siemens will be sold out and broken up Plus, it's not as after that. What do you have? Overpriced junk like Mercedes or BMW. They are not competitors to Japanese cars.
But
Because
then what, Andrei? But they're gonna put another painter, like Austrian painter,
well,
and
it's
power,
Austria.
because it's a cycle. It's a cycle.
It's Austria. They will, Austria supplies painters.
Austria supplies painters, right? So that's what I'm saying. They're gonna supply with another.
I think so. No, this Germany is totally different. It was completely emasculated. Every German man is LGBT supporter and is confused about his. So you look at this, their families are completely destroyed. The women are completely not feminine. So Germany is done. It's over. There are no healthy forces there anymore. And that's the funny thing. Maria Zakharova spoke a couple of years ago, and now it's happening. Do you know how many applications she said we have from Germany? And these are not your Eastern Germans and Russian Germans who are naturally returning to Russia. She's talking about German Germans, people from Munich, Hamburg, tens of thousands of applications. They run to Russia. Because if you are normal, Christian or conservative, having, accepting the fact that there are only two genders, you are enemy of the German state. So, and what you have, it's complete degeneracy. Culturally, it's complete art, it's complete degeneracy. So there you go. What do you expect? So they voted for it. They wanted it. Let them have it. So, and the question is that, is there any plan? There were plans, but then again, people deserve governments they elect. If you are not brought up in such a way that you reject completely something which is obvious and which is absolutely clearly some kind of the perversion, then what is your problem?
On the note of applications to Russia, I really have this feeling, and I think you might agree with me, there will be a big exodus to Russia.
It's already happening. It's already happening.
Mm-hmm. And it will escalate.
I wrote about it for years. United States is somewhat different because it is less affected, although there is still horrendous culture of this war culture. United States, all this nation had this libertarian and conservative streak, and it's still here. In Europe, it's primarily gone, except for some Eastern European countries like Poland and Hungary. Again, Czech Republic, we know what Czech Republic is, the capital of porn and sex tours, pretty much. So it's that's what it is. They go there. Western people go there. It's not anymore Amsterdam anymore. They go to Prague. Cheap girls, very attractive, and most of the porn which comes out today, it's made there. A lot of it anyway. So there you go. They wanted it, they got it. So
downgrading everything, It's that's what it is. Humiliating, really is.
Well,
it's downgrading.
You have their monument in Prague, I believe, of the prostitute with the open genitalia and doing the blowjob. I think, there you go. You can look it up. It's there. So that's it. That's the value. That's the values they promote. And what can I say? Russia doesn't want to have anything to do with this. And I'm already on record for many years. Russia is the modern West, is the West, what used to be West, So what we have today geographically, it's not Europe in any it's complete degeneration. And again, all values of enlightenment, which gave so much light and progress to humanity for all of its problems, of course, they are gone. It's not there anymore. So, and Europeans love it. They vote for it all time after time. So let them have it.
Okay, one more question, and this is from the viewer about those leaks that came out. Lada asked this question. Your thoughts on this, the timing of it, and also Well, what do you think? Why this happened now?
Oh, well, it happened actually in January, evidently, by this famous MI6 outlet, Bellingcat. But the reason it's concentrated now, and my friend Larry Johnson, and he's former CIA, he thinks that there is in the end some kind of the whistleblowing, at least at the start of the first batch of the documents released. The main point is that it's somebody wants to probably either find the way out for the United States by exposing basically, and don't forget, anything Pentagon talks about in terms of the real numbers and what correlates related to special military operations, I won't touch it with a long stick. Most of it still basically, made up. But we know, for example, now the approximate number of the KIAs on the armed forces of Ukraine side, and this is being corroborated by people who actually do have connections with Pentagon, and we're talking about 350,000 killed alone. So by the time this thing will be over, we will be looking at about 1 million casualties together on the Ukrainian side. And this was part of this. There could be part of some other game. Obviously, people who think that this kind of leak is kind of influence Russian decisions, they have to really update themselves. Russians have excellent, sensor and human intelligence, so they know their numbers much better than Pentagon does or CIA. And it also showed that basically intelligence community and government of the United States political top, they are completely detached from each other. They don't even understand what is happening, So, and that's the reason I really don't care about those leaks, because I'm following the real dynamics of the war as much as I can. I know who are reliable and I know what to believe. Well, that's why I'm former military professional after all, so, and what can I say? I mean, after I read some of those things which were online, it's like, so what? I mean, what's the news? So what's the news? What are you trying to tell us? That Washington is incompetent. I wrote 3 books about it. They don't understand modern warfare. They don't understand economics. They don't understand anything. So, and now this IMF says, oh yeah, Russian economy grows and they improved it. Dudes, I've been writing for you for years that actually Russian real economy, not this financial, baloney, like capitalization and blowing up those bubbles, selling crap to people which they don't need. I'm talking about the real economy. It was growing 4-5% a year for like hell knows how many years. Even sanctions didn't stop it. They don't even understand how a real economy works. They don't teach this in Ivy League in the United States, because all those professors in economics, most of them, and professors of the communications and journalism, they are academic frauds. And again, as already stated, I wouldn't allow them to mow my lawn back behind my house, because they absolutely, it's an echo chamber. They created this baloney, invented complete virtual world and live in it. And then when the reality strikes, and then we say, oh gosh, yeah, United States Army cannot fight it. Of course it cannot fight it. It will run out of ammunition in 2 weeks. And then it will be annihilated as again, it's the third. We're looking at the third iteration of the armed forces of Ukraine. So, and yeah, when I hear
I will say something that maybe a lady should not say, but it's an absolute shit show.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Well, James Kunstler has even a more serious word for it than the shit show, and you can go on his blog, and he is one of the best American writers currently. Well, he used a term which I agree on. It's called clusterfuck. That's what it is. That's pretty much what is happening. And again, I wrote 3 books about it. I warned about it. My blog, if you look at my blog first posts in 2014, once the situation with Crimea was kind of over and you already saw that Ukraine was trying to, initiate a bloodshed, and of course was repelled at that time, I already said that United States lost it. We just need to know how, time wise, and it will proceed, but it's over, and it is over. So what can I say?
Andrei, I am very, very grateful for your time today, for coming on. The audience says that they love you, and they love your sense of humor too, by the way. So I forgot to ask you today when we connected, because you always say, hello, it's me again.
Yeah, that's me again. Yeah, I know. It's just no, I'm not doing any kind of merchandising. Oh, it's my pleasure, Anya, to be with you. So anytime.
Thank you, because your expertise, this is like when we want to know things, we have to ask the right people. I think this is what the problem is. People they go with questions to the wrong people, and then they got those twisted answers from people whose ego sometimes, just
it's all about ego. All of it
it's
about ego.
But they have no clue, like zero clue. So yeah, they ask the wrong people important questions, and then they make their judgment based on those answers who are coming from like really where, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, Andrei, because I really value your opinion.
Oh, thank you, Anya. Thank you for having me.
And all the links, everyone, are down below the video. So if you want to follow Andrei, please check out the YouTube channel is down below, his books as well. They are translated in many languages, Andrei, right?
I know German, but I believe reading my books in Germany will soon be a thought crime, and you will be sent to Gulag for that.
No, don't say.
No. I mean, really, in Germany, it's not a normal country. I'm sorry to say that, but yeah, it's Russians. By the way, Russians finally bid adieu to this idea about Germany like some, economic and technological power. That Germans are viewed in Russia, Germany, not Germans. Many Germans are decent people who want, to live their lives. But I mean, especially those who run away to Russia. But they view Germany today as some kind of freak show. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And but then, of course, yeah, what can I say? It's
let's have some mercy over some people. It's what can we do?
Yeah. God bless their hearts, as they say in Ireland, I think. So yeah, and
thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I will do my best to connect with Andrei again in the near future. So thank you, everyone, and
thank you, Anya.
See you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.